Sometimes when I'm thinking about us, before we got lost and we parted, back to back we would carry on and we'd do anything for what we started. But this time we could break. I'm running dry, everything's the same. We'll try tonight. This time we're not safe and sound, not safe and sound. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. Sometimes when I'm reasoning about us, I know you got me, it's so effortless. Back to back we would carry on and we'd do anything for what we started. But this time we could break. I'm running dry, everything's the same. We'll try tonight. This time we're not safe and sound, not safe and sound. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah.
What's up, you guys? Welcome to the live stream. Welcome to the news. The FPV news with JB and ItsBlunty. How you doing, Blunty?
Good, Joshua. How's it going today?
Oh, I'm doing really good, man. You can see I'm wearing my Woda Wyatt Rampage shirt in honor of going to Rampage this week.
Nice.
So I retired this shirt because, well, for reasons. But I thought today was a perfect day to pull it out again. So if you guys are going to Rampage, I'll be there, and I'll see you there. But Blunty, you're not going to Rampage, unfortunately. I know people are going to be disappointed to hear that.
Nope. I will be here instead in Colorado, hanging out.
Well, can't complain about being in Colorado. And we got some big news this week.
Yeah.
I thought that the news about OpenTX was going to be like the biggest news. Like, oh, what could top that? But you topped it this morning. Not you personally, but you sent me a piece. So before we get into the news, let me just say thank you to all you guys for being here in the chat. 332 viewers. That's a lot for this early in the stream. I think I know why. People are noticing my... See, I cut my hair for I guess you could call it shaved. It's not razors. It's not baby smooth, but here, listen. I'm getting ready for Rampage, so I groomed myself so I can look nice. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you in the YouTube chat, and thank you in the Discord. Really glad that you're here. If you want to leave us, if you got any questions or comments, you want to leave us a super chat, you're welcome to do that. But in the meantime, we are going to go ahead. Blunty, why don't you tell us what we have got going this week?
All right. So the big news story of this week is definitely got to be the DJI video out is working. Video out of USB without any kind of hack or firmware upgrade or install or anything. So we'll tell you how
no
to,
hacks, no nothing.
Yeah, how to do it, where to get it. It takes just a couple minutes.
You
We
can
fire
get
it up
from your Patreon. For only 25? No.
No. No, this is open source, so don't worry.
Awesome. Bubby, Speedy Turtle, glad you're here. Sorry, Blunty. Sorry for interrupting you. Go ahead.
You're good. So we'll also talk about Redcat signed a letter of intent to buy the studio that makes Liftoff, Lugas Studios.
So they're just buying everybody up.
Yeah, also in the news, that Liftoff studio, Lugas is making Liftoff Micros, a special version of Liftoff. So we'll discuss what that means and what that'll be.
Nice, nice.
We got our bi-weekly Fatshark update, and it looks like we've got a tease for some new value goggles, box goggles. That's kind of an interesting word to say with digital.
Wow, digital box goggles. That would be very interesting.
Yeah. We've got congratulations to the winner of iGal 2, the International Game of Look #2. We've covered it through the weeks, and Daylight FPV has won that. So we'll review how he won and how you can be prepared for iGal 3.
Yeah, iGal was amazing. We'll talk about it. It's an amazing competition that it just brings to the top the absolute best whoop pilots out there. By the time it was over, I was astounded. We're going to see some video of the finalists, and it just blows me away. The quality of the piloting is unreal.
Yeah. We've got some DJI V2 goggles antenna testing. Maybe might put them in different places than the FCC documents say. We'll look at what that testing means. Mm-hmm. We've got a community spotlight this week. We've got somebody who made us a JR Bay module for the Happymodel Express LRS 2.4 gigahertz.
Yeah, he basically said the Happymodel 3D print is garbage. It's trash. There's so much wrong with it. I made a better one. And I was reading his email, and I thought, oh, this guy's so negative. And then it was like, and I made a better one. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, then you have the right to complain.
We've got a pretty cool drone takedown demonstration. I think this is really interesting stuff that you guys will like to see. So we'll talk about more what that means and why that's special. Mm-hmm. We've got a new range test from Wezley Varty, retesting the Ghost. Before we had a Ghost test that was surprisingly short, even on LoRa. Yeah. So we've got a new test.
Yeah. Ghost got a second chance. It did better.
Yes. Much better. The Ghost has returned.
There you go. The Ghost is back.
Well, we have an update for the WeBleed Whoop Series, Week 3. We'll tell you who won, who came in second and third.
Oh, don't spoil it. Don't spoil it. We'll have to see. Obviously, people could just click. The links to all the stuff we're talking about are down in the video description in the show notes. And if you want to, spoil the news for you, or if you want to make a reference to anything that we're talking about, you can go check those out. Yeah.
Soft mounting is back. This time we're not soft mounting motors, we're soft mounting arms. And Kabab FPV has been working, I believe, with Chris Rosser in the background to do some of this testing, along with some guys in the Facebook group over there on the FPV cycle. We'll talk a little bit about what that means.
Nice. Before you say Kabab is just bro science and full of it, he's working with Chris Rosser.
Yeah.
Chris Rosser is definitely not bro science.
The DJI drone has an update, which causes a database error, and some pilots are not able to fly at all. So we'll talk about that.
DJI, what is wrong? DJI, are you feeling okay? Activation problems. Now you send out a firmware update and can't fly. Are you feeling okay, DJI? Do you need a minute?
There's a new Rapidmix firmware update we want to shout out. They support more cameras now and getting that stuff sorted out. And then last but not least, there's a new, maybe a new answer to when OpenTX 2.4 is coming. And the answer looks like it might not be OpenTX 2.4.
Yeah, this is big. We always try to put like the biggest, most tantalizing thing. Well, we open with something big, but then we always try and put the biggest, most tantalizing thing at the end, because obviously we want you to stick around. And I got an email that just like, when is OpenTX has been like coming soon for over a year. Why? Yeah. Well, we finally know some answers, and there's finally the logjam is going to break. You remember when Betaflight took over and CleanFlight was like, bye, see you later. This is like that for OpenTX. So stick around. But let's not make them wait any longer, Blunty. Let's talk about the biggest. Let's see. Is this your video you've linked here?
Yes.
Blunty? All right, let's show your tutorial video.
This is not a joke.
here's Blunty's tutorial video.
And it's not going to cost you any money, and it's not going to take very long. So stick with me, and I'll teach you how to get video out of your DJI FPV Goggles V1 or V2 to a computer.
Wow, now that is a strong opening. So tell us about it, Blunty.
Yeah, so basically, a bunch of guys got together in a Slack. I got tired of seeing everything around the internet. People were like, hey, I got this little thing figured out, or hey, I think there's this code over here, or hey, I got some USB over here. And I was like, all right, well, let's just start collecting people. And so I made a Slack. I grabbed a bunch of people and got them in a Slack. And for a couple of months, nothing really happened. And then, we had on the news D3VL Jack, who made the Beyond hack for the FCC hack for the DJI FPV drone, the free FCC hack. He got invited into the Slack, and that kind of kicked everything off because he had a smart controller, and they started doing some analysis on the smart controller. And basically, D3VL Jack and Junus, who's the real star who got it all figured out, were able to send like a magic bit basically to this header inside the goggles, and it spits a bunch of video back out. And we now have video out to a video bit stream on a computer. And so currently we have a version of that. There's a version of that out right now from the guys on the Discord. We have a Discord for this as well. But there's a version of this out in a zip file right now that you can just install on Windows, and kind of works in just a couple minutes. It's pretty simple that I detail in the video.
So let's be really clear about what we've got here. First of all, because I've seen some confusion in the chat. This is an amazing accomplishment, but it is not HDMI out. It's USB out to a PC or coming soon an Android device. So you have to, the goggle can't output HDMI, but it does output a video stream, just like streaming video, just like we're doing now, more or less.
Yeah, it's MPEG-4, H.264 video. Yeah. VLC has trouble with it for some reason. It's actually pretty funny. Junus pulled the video off last night, and he went to bed thinking he didn't really get anywhere. He had a bin file, and he uploaded it to Google Drive, and VLC wouldn't do anything with it. He woke up, and Google had figured out how to see it, and we were able to play the video in the drive.
Google Drive was like, hey, you want to play this video? And you're like, how are you able to do this?
Yeah, and we're like, oh, there's real video. So, they dove in after that and got it all working. So, yeah, it's amazing. I think a lot of people have already gotten in there to the Discord and tested it out. It works surprisingly well for how hacky together it is. Right now, it's very early. It's proof of concept, basically, at this point. And this basically shows that the mechanism works, how the video stream will work, and now it can be configured and set up in executables, and like everything else can be figured out.
Yeah. To be clear, this does not require any modification of the goggles.
Yes.
It is not a hack. It's not you could call it a hack, I guess. It's not a hardware modification. It's not a software modification. You are just sort of emulating what the smart controller already does.
Yeah.
And that's why, because people are saying, well, maybe DJI will release a firmware and like lock this out. But to do that, they would also have to lock out the smart controller.
Yeah. So from what we understand about this, like everybody was chasing down the FPV Live app, including Junus. Was reaching out to me and digging into that FPV Live app like almost a year ago, I think. And that was kind of a dead end. But it seems like the reason is because the smart controller OS actually goes in and opens a socket from the USB port to like a certain socket inside of the firmware. And then the Live app just talks to that socket. So the socket has to be there. And that means that it has to have everything's cooked into the firmware, baked into the firmware. So that means they're going to need to make a new firmware to fix it on the smart controller and on the goggle.
Which they could do. But the challenge will be that they will have to release a new firmware for both the smart controller and the goggle at the same time. And if somebody updates one but not the other, then it won't work. Yeah. And perhaps you could argue that they might not want to do that and like risk pissing off because the only people really using the smart controller are commercial customers. Although when has DJI cared about pissing off their customers? I guess you could also argue.
Yeah, they'd also have to do quite a bit. They'd have to lock out, rollbacks, which right now we can do rollbacks on the goggles. So right now they would have to lock out rollbacks. It's just a lot. And also we haven't seen an update for the V1 goggles in like 8 months or something.
Right. So, there was a joke that was like, hey, at least they would be forced to release a firmware update. Maybe they'll put some bug fixes in there while they're at it.
Yeah. If they released a firmware update and the only thing it did was block this, boy, that would be real underhanded. And we can only hope that they wouldn't do that.
We can hope.
Yeah.
Big Data Pimp says they could block it without disabling the smart controller. It would just require firmware updates for the controller and the goggle. Yeah, no, absolutely. They would have to release a simultaneous firmware update for the controller and the goggle, and then people would have to update both in sequence, and they would break their own functionality, which perhaps they might hesitate to do or perhaps not. So where can this go in the future? Right now, we can display an image on a laptop or computer. That's it. We don't have HDMI out. The latency is pretty bad.
Yeah, the latency. So the smart controller latency itself is like 150-ish to 200 milliseconds. It looks like this is got a bunch of headroom on top of that. So I think the best we've seen is like nobody's actually like flash tested it right now, but it seems like it's around 300 to 400 milliseconds on the best setup. And then it's kind of getting longer based on like what you're running it on and what the processing is like on that device. But this is all like, this was figured out this morning. So I think everybody's still trying to figure out like better ways to decode the stream and figure out the best way to sort it out. And right now it's using FF Play, I think, which is an FFmpeg library. So there's all kinds of different options, I think, for doing this. This is just like proof of concept.
Yeah. So this is great for spectating, no good for flying, and perhaps for live streaming it's okay, but the video will be maybe a quarter second behind your audio, maybe even as much as a half a second, depending on your machine. And Android coming, but not iOS, I hear.
Yeah, it seems like iOS is really locked down from the USB side of things, so you can't just like open up this socket that you need to from the USB. But Android is already in development. I think there's like a super beta version going on right now that's not available, but I think D3VL Jack is working on that with a couple other guys. So they're going to get it done as soon as they can, that's for sure. I know, like, again, just another shout out to Junus who got this together, D3VL Jack for pulling this off the smart controller. Also shout out to 1010. 1010 pulled all this stuff together, made posts. He's been moderating in the Discord, getting everybody together, answering a ton of questions. Obviously, there's been a flood of users. So, just awesome to see everybody come together and get this working.
And to be clear, this is free. Yeah. There are links in the video description below to the Discord server and the GitHub project and Blunty's video, the tutorial. Andy RC, by the way, also made a tutorial. No disrespect to Andy, but since Blunty was the one who brought me the news, and since he's my co-host, I thought I would link to his video. But kudos to Andy RC as well. And if you have DJI goggles, you can literally try this right now. You could. I got it working. I just download it. You do the Zadig to fix the driver. The instructions are all right there in the Discord, and like 5 minutes after I downloaded the zip file, I was looking at a USB video stream from my goggles just like that, which is pretty cool. I mean, I already spent $750 on the smart controller, so I mean, I don't really need this, but...
The other thing I'll just say is this is open source right now. So this is already put out on an MIT license instead of GPL v3. So this is kind of just do whatever the hell you want with it. Pretty much you can read the MIT license to know about that. But this is all up for the community. You know, people are here to get everybody going on this. I'm just happy to see the actual progress. And it's been a long time coming. So good stuff. Yeah. If you guys want to help out with this, you're welcome to join the Discord. Let everybody know you're a developer. I'm sure people are happy to help you. This is forkable. You know, this is a normal GitHub project. So
I just put this together. D3VL, that's the same people who released the FCC hack, aren't they? I just put that together. Oh, wow. And people were like, they didn't really hack it. They just copied this other guy's hack. I guess they've proven their chops.
Yeah, Jack is the one working on that APK. Yeah, D3VL is definitely pushing hard on this project.
Nice. So, is the DJI output only for PC, not Mac? Blunty, what is it?
There's currently a Mac. I just pasted this in the show notes at the last minute, so it might not have got into the YouTube, but I'll paste in the chat. There's a Mac OS install guide right now on the GitHub. Somebody has just gotten that put together. It's a little more hacked together. But
I will add that to the show notes real quick so that it's linked down below. 1 second. Go ahead, Blunty.
And this will work in Mac or Linux. There's a Mac guide there, and then there's a Linux guide on the GitHub. It's basically like people helping people to figure it out on the Discord, but it does work on Linux and Mac as well. So, and basically, I think Lava Chemist also got it running on a Pi earlier. Maybe a couple other guys did too, on a Raspberry Pi 4 with a decent amount of latency. It's all just going to roll out real quick here. So.
Awesome. Amazing. All right. Well, kudos to the team that got that done, and fingers crossed that DJI doesn't find a way to nix it, because there's a lot of potential there to do a lot of cool stuff.
Real quick.
Yeah.
Just seeing some other questions. There's this works for both V1 and V2 goggles. It seems like there's no limitation on firmware or anything. So there's no real limitation. And I think he did explain this, but just to make sure everybody's clear, this is just USB to a device. So that device needs to do something with the signal once it gets to the device to get an HDMI out to somewhere else.
Right.
So
you would, for example, if you had OBS running on a machine, you could have OBS output to a video. If you have a multi-monitor setup with a video output, OBS can take one of your HDMI monitor outputs and use it as a streaming destination. So you could use OBS to just stream to the internet. But if you specifically want HDMI out, you've still got some hoops to jump through. You basically have to go through your laptop or PC. But surely that's being worked on even as we speak. Yep. Awesome.
Very cool.
All right, well, let's move on. I'm sure there'll be more to say about that in the coming weeks. Redcat bought another, well, they haven't bought it yet. They signed a letter of intent to buy another freaking company. This time it's Lugoose Studios, makers of Liftoff. Let's take a look at that announcement real quick. And I think the big question, so cool. So first of all, kudos to the guys at Liftoff. If they've decided that the right thing for their company is to get acquired, I assume that it's good for them to do that. They're happy, they're making money, and they're potentially going to get access to opportunities that they wouldn't. All the reasons why you might allow yourself to be acquired. But what is Redcat's play here, Blunty? You don't know, but let's make something up.
I think actually it's sort of clear. The guy it says Jeff Thompson, the guy at Redcat, CEO at Redcat, says that Liftoff can be the leading platform for simulating the flight experience that new drone pilots need to complete their training. So it seems like this is going to go hand in hand. I actually did not put this in there either, but one of the other things that Liftoff is doing as a company is they're making a simulator that's specifically targeted to the commercial industry. So it will train people how to work on pipelines and do oil fields and stuff like that. Liftoff Academy, there you go.
Yep, I've got that up on screen. I have heard about this. I knew this existed, but I didn't know that they had gone anywhere beyond just screenshots. So first release expected in 2021. Maybe that's what Redcat is helping to finance additional development effort to make this happen.
Yeah, it seems like that's kind of their play here. We've talked about, they just seem like they're buying everything drone related, but if they were, looking for a whole portfolio, part of the missing portfolio would be like a training simulator and system to get people trained up on the other side. So it's kind of interesting.
This is something that Lugoose has. I'm sure that I talked about this with Kevin Halterman of Lugoose when I went to Belgium. Or near around there, which was 2+ years ago. So perhaps this is something that's been on the back burner for Liftoff, is wanting to get, making a drone simulator is cool, but making games, maybe there's a kind of an upper end on how much money you can make and how much good you can do in the world. Whereas training search and rescue pilots how to fly drones, training industrial inspectors, that has a sort of much bigger top end. So maybe that's what Redcat's bringing to the table for them.
Yeah.
Really cool.
I think that likely ties into the next bit, because I imagine that's kind of a new base that they're working on. And Liftoff Micros has also been teased as coming later in the year. So this will be a totally new standalone title, reworked, new levels, new physics, new everything, and remodeled around whoops, totally around micros. So they've got your normal tiny whoops. They've got stuff that's a little larger, and then they've also they've got brushed and brushless. Pretty cool.
Yeah, we're looking at the teaser trailer now. It's about a 2-minute teaser trailer. The environments look amazing.
Yeah, it looks very good. I made a comment on Facebook to one of the developers, and they basically said that unfortunately they wouldn't be able to port current Liftoff to this system, but it is actually so new that it's not compatible with all the Liftoff assets and stuff. So it would be interesting. They basically will need to make a Liftoff 2 to bring it in line with this. So this is.
Presumably they'll do that when in all their spare time when they're developing Liftoff Academy. Oh, good to know. Good to know that dude is still there, though.
The dude is still there.
Is still there. Well, the big question will be how's the physics, and of course, since nobody's flown it, no one can say. But it'll be interesting to get to try it out.
Yeah, coming later this year, it looks like. So
No Nick Burns' house. People really, really want Nick Burns' house. In the same way that my house is in Liftoff, the exterior.
Oh, right.
They
Yeah.
really want to fly inside Nick Burns' house. Liftoff, get on it with all your spare time.
That's a good one.
Awesome. Congratulations to the guys at Liftoff and Lucas.
Yes. Hopefully that all goes through and everybody's happy.
All right. Next up, Fatshark has done a new update. They said they were going to do development updates and keep the community apprised, and they have been keeping it up, doing their, what is it, bi-weekly, every 2 weeks?
Every 2 weeks, yeah. They've been pretty much on the money with that.
Yeah. So what have they got for us this week, Blunty?
So last week we told people about, they were trying to figure out if they were doing HDMI in or HDMI out because they only had one option on their new goggles. Well, overwhelmingly, they got people's responses and people want HDMI out, so they're going to be happy to do that. That'll be what the new goggles have set up for them. That kind of ties in actually to the third paragraph there. So they have actually been testing a new set of goggles, and so they've teased these before a little bit, but they've actually got a picture with the in the wild photo, and they've got a Scout HD with a 1080p display that they've got a shark bite inside of. Essentially, that's a DJ or a shark bite only digital goggle.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, the Scout has always been a really solid goggle in terms of its optics, in terms of it's just been a solid goggle. So if you're going to cram a shark bite receiver into that sounds pretty awesome.
I thought it was quite interesting. They chose to use this wording. They said, "We are very excited to be launching a value digital goggle." So that's obviously they're shooting lower on the price point there. I was expecting to have to buy a $300 Fatshark goggle with the $250 shark bite receiver inside of it. Right. To get it. So hopefully they can push that price.
Attitude V6 came out. It was about $350. Then $250 on top of that for a shark bite, and then you're looking at $600 for a shark bite goggle, and you're like, eh. But if they're focusing on value, I mean, there's only so low that they're going to get it. But like, if you could, like, let's say, I mean, I'm just pulling this number out of my butt. You'll say you spend $400 on a Scout with a built-in shark bite. I mean, that actually is, a Scout is about $250. It's actually not a discount. That's just retail. So
it's got a 1080p display too, so that's not bad.
Oh wow, that's really good. Yeah, that's better than the Scout currently is.
Yes. So it'd be interesting to see. And then they also teased, they don't have a time frame, but they are really working on, people keep asking about increased power, and they know that's a thing. They've got a bunch of prototypes they've already tested, but they are still really working, and they're shooting for 800 milliwatts or above for a new transmitter. So they're working hard to get that out.
Yeah, I'm really, and it's nice to hear that. I'm really loving these development updates because it shows that like the concerns of the community are being heard, and that keeps them, even if they're like on the back burner, it keeps them on the stove. Yeah. Like if they said, no, we're never going to come out with an 800 milliwatt or a 1 watt VTX, some people would be like, all right, well, good luck. But if they say, no, we hear you, we're working on it, there's always that potential that they're gonna come through and break. I think that would make a big difference. Yeah. That's interesting. There was a comment that said nobody wants a digital box goggle. I don't think that's true. What do you think, Blunty? Digital box goggle, complete waste of time?
No, I mean DJI goggles are kind of box goggles.
They kind of are.
You get two 2-inch screens in the back, which are not small, and you're like looking through a viewport, but it's kind of just not open. So, I don't know. I think I'm happy. I would be happy to fly a box goggle as long as it's got a 1080p screen in there. I'm sure
I'm not opposed to a box goggle. Like you can't really argue about the size if you fly DJI. Like you used to be like, oh, they're so big and bulky, and then DJI, and you're like, well, I guess I can live with it. 1080p screen. The price of a 1080p screen, if it's like how big is that screen? It's gonna be a 2-inch screen or something. It's gonna be way cheaper. Than that. Bigger even. Yeah, because if it's box, you don't have focals for it, right? So it's got to be. Oh, right. Yeah, DJI's got 2 2-inch screens behind the focals. So I don't know. Oh, but you're gonna have like a 5-inch screen or something. Yeah. Oh, well, you could probably get a pretty decent screen that size at a pretty decent price. So it definitely helps bring the price down. Yeah, we'll have to see what they can come up with. Yeah, for sure. Are DJI the best goggles in the game right now? Asks Shy Being. I mean, if you want to run the DJI system, yes.
Right.
If you want to run analog, no.
Right.
OLED,
Not
baby. OLED life.
Yes.
All right. Excellent. Great job, Fatshark. Keep it up.
Yeah.
Keep it
absolutely.
up. Just keep it up. I mean, they're gonna get there.
Right.
They're gonna get. Somebody's gonna. The two things I want from SharkBite. Listen up, everyone who cares what I think. The two things I want from SharkBite are, number one, you get into the 800 milliwatt 1 watt range, and now the range, because right now you can go further on analog than you can on SharkBite. Now it'll look better on SharkBite right up until it statics out and then you're done. Whereas with analog, you could keep going, just because analog's higher output power. Give me 1 watt ish, and give me a proper freaking camera with a big sensor like the Eagle instead of these terrible little micro cameras that are really not showing your system off to be the best. I feel like those are the two big hurdles, and they're going to take a big level up. So.
Yeah, and I think they did talk about, in the last update or the one before that, they talked about larger cameras. So I know they are pushing towards that and trying to get those manufactured. So I think they're doing exactly what people want them to do. So hopefully we'll see those come out pretty soon, and everything will be great.
Hey, Blunty,
Yes.
Ghost Branch, but take a pause from the agenda. Ghost Branch just asked me about the bottle cap skids, which I thought we were going to have on the news, but I don't see them. I don't actually think I see them. Did those get overlooked?
I did not see anything about that.
Okay, we'll have to do the bottle cap skids next week.
Okay.
Okay.
Teaser next week.
Teaser, bottle cap skids. It's a 3D print where you use bottle caps as skids. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Metal skids. Anyway, we'll talk about that next week. We'll do it next week.
All right. So iGal 2. The International Game of Whoop. We've covered here a couple times. FPV Skittles, Daniel Sagano, runs the International Game of Whoop. And after 40 weeks, 40 weeks, 290 pilots from 6 continents and 24 countries, starting back in August of 2020. We're competing every week. And we finally got a result. We finally got a winner.
You know, we pretty much stopped doing Rotor Riot episodes with Game of Quad, because number one, Game of Quad is a nightmare to edit. And number two, it just takes forever to finish the Game of Quad, and people get bored and they quit. A 40-week Game of Quad.
Yeah. But they held out, man. They were killing it. So we've got our results finally. DaylightFPV, that's Daniel Walston. He won season 2. At the end, they made challenges for each other. So this is the week 40 video of Agilis's. The second place winner was Agilis Augustin Malini from Indiana, and he made this challenge in round 3, and this is how he won.
So Blunty, this is right now we're looking at. Hang on, we're looking at DaylightFPV, and this is a 4-minute video, which I don't think we should play the whole 4 minutes. Do you have an idea of where we might jump in here?
Not 100%.
Let's take a look at what he's up to. So he's not just ripping. He's like been challenged to do, whatever, 50 power loops in a row or something.
I was going to say, I think this is just as many power loops as you can do in a row.
Okay. Like before your battery dies?
Or until you can't make a power loop, I think.
I mean, it seems like he can just keep going forever. Let's see what else. Is he just doing 4 minutes of power loops?
I think so.
Okay.
Yes.
Well,
it is just 4 minutes of power loops.
That's impressive, but I kind of was hoping for something a little more entertaining for the live stream. Let's see what else we've got. Week 40, completing his round challenge from Daylight's YouTube. Do we have a video of him completing was the most difficult challenge? So this, you said, was probably the most difficult challenge.
Yeah,
this is Agilis here.
Yeah, this is Agilis. This was back in week 35. Daylight made this challenge, and this is him completing it.
Bubby points out that Daylight is in his Young Rippers Discord server, a Discord server for Young Rippers. Bubby, you're a moderator, so you probably will be allowed to put a link. If you want to put an invite link to your Discord here in the chat, you're more than welcome. But again, it's for Young Rippers only. Old guys need not apply. No, Bubby, you do whatever you want to do. My God. The video is, he's using rapid fire, isn't he? That's why the video is so dim. Rapid fire mode 1 does that. What the flip?
These guys have quite a grasp on the whoop.
Oh my gracious. Yeah, and you're not kidding. You're not kidding. This is insane. His Rubik's cubes are ridiculous. Like, it reminds me of Vec. Just how he's just locked into his rates so perfectly. Crazy.
Yeah, quite amazing.
All right. Well, these guys won. These guys won a 40-week challenge.
Yeah, so Daylight FPV was actually already a Tiny Whoop team pilot. Because of that, Agilis, Augustin Molini also he is now a Tiny Whoop team pilot as well. So Jesse Perkins has sponsored him. That's
nice.
Pretty cool. It's pretty awesome. So just to shout out, the first two guys were from Texas and Indiana, but third place was Spit, Peter Dreimel from Hungary. Fourth was Akira FPV, Carlos Vera from Spain. Fifth was Callisto, aka Josh Galbraith from Georgia. And sixth was Average FPV, aka Sam Weidmer from Switzerland. So people from all over the board. You can, win this thing no matter where you're from or no matter what you've got, as long as you've got a whoop that can record video, pretty much.
Hold on. Okay. Yeah, and they're starting the next one soon, right? So if you want to get in on it, more power to you. Is there a link in the show notes or something, or have they announced anything? No,
for I Got 3?
Yeah, I Got 3. When's it starting?
Yeah, that'll start in July. Right now, there's planned to be over 300 pilots for season 3, but there'll be more announcements. We'll announce here, obviously, when that's starting.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to get the Super Chats more promptly because last week I closed out the live stream with a couple of Super Chats unread, so I apologize if that was one of you. Definitely always appreciate your donation. Thank you, Elliot, for $20 donation in the Super Chat. Just saying thanks for the help yesterday. All right, next up, there's a big question. I wish I had a set of DJI goggles here to hold up, but I don't. There's a big question if you've got the DJI V2 goggles as to which antennas you should put a patch antenna, like let's say you've got the iFlight Crystal or the Luminaire Axie HD. Where should you put that patch antenna versus the Omnis? And we pretty much answered that question for the V1 goggles, but then the V2 goggles changed how the antennas work.
Yes.
And the rule of thumb has been, I thought, top left and bottom right, because those are both the TX and RX antennas. But then Gal Kremer just did this testing, Blunty, and what did he come up with?
Yeah, he actually found that it seemed like it was better to put both patches on the bottom. He got more consistent bit rate by putting both patches on the bottom, so that's one TX and one RX, and then the two Omnis on the top, so that's one TX and one RX as well.
Well, I've always felt that Omnis on the top was where Omnis should be, because especially if you're not using Omnis with like extended cables, the higher up the Omnis are, the better they're going to do for you, just because they're away from the obstruction of your head. But I don't know. People are saying, well, I guess Gal Kremer proved the common wisdom wrong. And I'm like, well, this is just one test. I mean, I don't think we can just take this test and say it disproves everything we thought we already knew.
Yeah, so a couple things. I think a couple things we should discuss here are that, okay, so one, typically what people have said before when they read the FCC documents was that you should put on both the patches on the receiving antennas. So you should crisscross them so that you get only receiving antennas on the V2s. Mm-hmm. And they said that because obviously you want to receive from a distance and the video packets are bigger. So my thought process is that makes sense. Because basically you want to receive the best, with the most gain, the bigger packets, because it's harder to modulate a bigger packet over a distance, right? So the video packets are going to be bigger. They're coming to the goggles. The TX that goes back out are going to be smaller packets because they're just requesting a new packet. They're not sending a whole video packet back to the drone. So they should be able to modulate farther, and thus you wouldn't need as much gain from a patch.
Totally valid.
Yeah, I think that's the traditional idea. Gal Kremer's results ended up seemingly being different. And so I think one of the confusing parts for me here is just if you imagine how this works, that patch antenna has, has two fronts on it, basically. So each antenna connection is doing one part of the patch on those patches. So it seems strange to me that you can have one side receiving and one side transmitting and still get good range and good distance from those antennas. And I think that's the concern with doing one on a TX and one on an RX, is one side of your head is going to not be receiving and one side of your head is not going to be transmitting.
Yeah. I don't have an answer. We have to acknowledge that Gal Kremer's result is different than other people's result. And also kind of doesn't make sense logically. Like, if it's better to have the patch on an RX versus a TX-RX, then wouldn't it be better to have both patches on an RX?
Yes.
But
you would think so.
You would think. Things don't always work like you thought.
Sure,
I'd be interested to see if someone can repeat his results. His experimental design is very solid. Like, he's got all the numbers and all the data. So whenever you have a result that makes you go, oh, that's weird, well, maybe your experiment was flawed, or maybe you've discovered something new, and we kind of don't know which is which here.
Yeah. Well, hopefully this will just inspire more testing, get more information, stuff like that. We do have just some docs references in the show notes if you wanted to check the antenna locations and all that kind of stuff. That's all there for you.
Awesome. And thank you to people like Gal Kremer and RC Shim and Wezley Varty. I'm actually sending Wezley Varty. Maybe we'll try and reproduce this test. I'm sending Wezley Varty a set of DJI goggles so he can do some DJI range testing. So we'll have to see where that comes up. Anyway, more data is good. Cool. Let's move on to the community spotlight.
Yes. So we had a user, Solidware, who sent us a Thangs model of the JR module bay for the Express LRS Happymodel, basically for the TX module. The box that TX module comes in, I've heard nothing but bad information about the actual box. It's a 3D printed box that was not designed very well, I think, that originally comes with it. So he decided to just do something about it and made his own.
Yeah.
So, and this box is screwless. So basically you put everything in there, snap it together. It's all good to go. And he even made an offset antenna version or a centered antenna version for the back plate, whichever one you want to use.
Very nice. Yeah, he sent me an email and he was like, "Oh my God, this thing is a piece of garbage. It's got all kinds of overhangs. It's difficult to print. You need freaking screws to hold it together. Who designed this?" And then he said, "Here, I've got a better one." And I was like, "Okay." I suppose you could use this really as just a generic JR module project box if you wanted to print such a thing, right? I mean, you don't have to use it for Express LRS, do you? I
don't think so. I think it's like laid out for the way the board is laid out. But
I got you.
Yeah.
So MC's Creation says, so can you screw that cover? I mean, you can. You could screw anything if you're determined enough. But you don't have to, I think, is the point.
Yeah, I think it's made to snap together. So
yeah, it snaps together. Cliff Brown says, doesn't DJI's range cap out at 10 miles? I believe the hard limit for DJI FPV is 6 kilometers in 25 megabit per second mode and 12 kilometers in 50 megabit per second mode.
So that is a misnomer. I did look into that. I dug into that a couple weeks ago. And it's actually the case is once you do the 1.06 update, both 25 and 50 go the whole range.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, so you enable 50 meg mode and it unlocks that. So it's 12 kilometers flat.
Yes. Yes, on both modes, 12 kilometers. Once you do the 1.06 update, I think it was.
Nice. Okay, but you're absolutely right that 12. You won't. I don't think you're going to get to 12 kilometers on the stock antennas. First of all, I don't think you're going to get to 12 kilometers even on like an iFlight Crystal. So my curiosity in sending him these goggles is how far do you get on the stock antennas? How far do you get with an iFlight Crystal? And so we could do testing of the upper and lower and so forth. In order to actually get to 12 kilometers, you'll need some high gain external antennas, and that's typically what people are doing.
There's a lot of like 3, 5, and 7 turn helicals I've been seeing people run on the DJI to get like really far out there.
Somebody messaged me and he said, I took the DJI system out to 9.6 kilometers on the iFlight Crystals, and I'm really disappointed. What can I do to get better range? I was like, that's amazing.
That seems really good.
You did great. Just thank your lucky stars, I guess. Anyway, so thank you very much to Solidware.
Solidware?
Solidware. Thank you very much to Solidware for contributing this to the Express LRS community. Such a great community.
Yeah.
All right.
So let's move to something that normally is pretty drone negative, but I think this actually ends up being drone positive. And I'll explain why as we watch this video.
Okay, let's put this video up. Do we want sound, Blunty? That's 38 seconds.
No sound. You don't need sound.
Swarm kill. I'm excited already. We got a swarm of phantoms coming. Oh no! Look at them all. They're gonna take pictures of me while I'm sunbathing naked. Ah, not today. Not today, DJI phantoms. You're done.
So I thought that was pretty cool, but this is the cooler part, I think. So you've got two of them here, but one of them you don't want. So this can actually target and remove with EMP.
Whoa. They're not just doing jamming, because if you just hang on, we'll come back here. We don't want to watch how bodysuits are designed to look realistic in movies. This is not just jamming, because like jamming won't cause a Phantom or a Mavic to fall out of the air. It'll just go into loiter or return to home.
Yes, this is quite different. Instead of doing jamming, let's skip all that stuff. Let's just shoot high frequency microwave at it. So that's what they're doing, and they've actually developed this out of like GaN FETs, basically the new gallium nitride FETs. They figured out a way to get all this power sunk into this, basically into this trailer, this little portable trailer. It used to be so much larger, and now it's like this little portable trailer you could haul around.
We got a picture of it up here on the stream.
And this will go to like government organizations. This is like a DoD or protect to airport sort of thing. And there are some range concerns, but basically, this is the first thing I've seen that can do actual targeted removal of specific drones with analysis and takedown. And again, like it's not jamming. So like anything with electronics, it's going to take down.
Wow. Like, I don't even know what to say. That's crazy. It's just like basically like a highly focused microwave beam that just fries your drone from hundreds of feet away. That's amazing. I mean, yeah, it's kind of weird, but kind of cool at the same time.
Well,
from a technical perspective.
That's why I think, like, yeah, from our perspective, like if you're not supposed to be there, they can take you down, and if you are, they don't have to take you down to get rid of everybody else. So I do think it makes sense to have these techs where they can pick and choose. You know, it'll help out, I think, with the development of the laws and the way they're handled and stuff. And yeah, hopefully because they can be more discerning. I asked for a price. I got
you reached out to him?
Yeah, I got contacted by the person who's the sales rep. He's actually in your Discord for this company.
Wow. Well, I mean, Rotor Riot video coming up.
And he basically just said, well into the millions. The Department of Defense was at this test. That's what the test was for. So it sounds like that's probably the direction it will go. He also did want me to mention, if you click on the products link, they also have a helicopter pod, so they can mount this thing on a helicopter or a drone as well.
Where's the products link? I don't see that.
It's the next link.
Lifestyle.
If you go under,
I see.
Yeah.
The products. Yeah. Let's see what we got here. Let's see. Leonidas pod.
Yeah, so you can mount that thing on a drone, or on another drone, or on a helicopter or something like that too.
Wow. There are some questions coming up in the chat. One of them is, can it track a moving drone? I assume this is one of the advantages, because if you try and take a moving drone out using another, like a bird or a missile or a bullet, it's very hard to track and catch. They're so agile. But in this case, I assume it's electrically guided. It's not actually mechanically guided. And so it should be really easy for it to sort of focus that beam on a moving drone.
Yeah, from my understanding, they're able to, it's called beam steering. Like they're able to do beam steering essentially through software analysis of the situation and figuring out all the stuff. But I think one of the biggest things is just size. Like I looked at like previous applications of high frequency microwave, and even for much less sophisticated things, you're talking about like a whole semi. Like it's just the whole semi to power it. And now I guess
let's be clear. It's a huge amount of power they have to be generating, because microwave, any RF energy drops off according to the inverse square law, which means that as you get further away, you get exponentially less energy. So to be able to hit something with a meaningful amount of energy out at a distance of a few hundred meters or more, like I don't know what the effective range of this is, they're generating a huge amount of energy.
Yep. Yeah, so basically, the big advance, I think, was because of gallium nitride transistors, and they were able to use like much smaller equipment and shrink it down and get it much more efficiently handling all that power. So, yeah, pretty cool to see. I don't think there's like a published range or anything like actually out yet. like about it's just some general information in this test footage. So
yeah, the other thing people are asking about is what about like stuff behind the drone? But again, it goes back to the inverse square law. If you know the range of the drone, you can use just enough energy. I mean, I'm just making this up, but I'm not getting paid. You could use just enough energy to hit the drone with a meaningful amount of energy. You could even theoretically ramp it up if it wasn't going down. But you know that as soon as you're another 100 meters away, that power has dropped off substantially. So that actually is kind of an ideal application, as long as you're not too close to whatever's behind you.
Yeah, and to be clear, I think you've been able to slam people with a bunch of microwave before this, but this is a way to do it much smaller, much more consistently, and like you said, you can control for all these variables. So
yeah,
quite interesting.
DJI FPV says just use a 12-gauge shotgun, much less power. I mean, you think the military hasn't thought of that. The problem with this is that, like, they're imagining, like it said in the video, drone swarms. So let's imagine you've got a swarm of 20 or 30 or 50 or, gosh, 300 or 500 drones coming in. Like, who knows? You're not going to shoot those all down with ballistics. So the advantage of an EMP-based pulse, I imagine, is that you can, number one, you can fire it faster and more focused to take out multiple pulses, multiple targets. In theory, you could fire a more wide-range beam as long as you can get enough energy into them to disrupt them. There's a lot of potential here to do really interesting things. It's pretty slick.
Yeah, quite interesting. So,
all right,
military will have that soon if they don't already have some form of it.
I mean, if it's on our news, they probably already had it years ago. We just didn't know about it.
Probably very true.
Well, we got an update here from Wezley Varty, the guy who's doing all the range testing, and he previously released some range testing. Let's get this. There we go. This is perfect. He released some range testing showing that at 100 milliwatts, LoRa Ghost got 5.4 kilometers in range, which was really surprising. Number one, because LoRa should go way further than FLRC at the same output power. And number two, because when he went to 350 milliwatts, he got such a huge jump up. And decibel-wise, mathematically, going from 100 to 350 milliwatts should not make you go from 5 to 20. So basically, one of these results is wrong, was the takeaway.
Yes.
And he talks about in the video how Tony Cake was going to send him a Ghost module because he had to borrow it. And that's why he didn't run the retest sooner, but then he didn't get it. And then I was like, oh, well, I just send you one, dude. So I did. And he retested. And how did it go?
It actually seems to went really well. Now it kind of throws into question actually 350 milliwatt tests. So I think there's going to be more testing. But on this test, he got with 100 milliwatt LoRa, same settings as before, 24.1 kilometers. So
that's more like you would expect.
Yes, and that was a test to fail safe. So that was kind of the length he got on it. But if you check in that video at like about 950, you can see he's got another chart of his summary. Mm-hmm. And he shows what his current results are for each system. So Tracer doesn't, as we've talked about before, Tracer does not do LoRa. So the best you can get with Tracer is FLRC mode. So all these are in 250 hertz refresh rate, just to be fair with Tracer, because Tracer, you kind of have to. And so these are the results that are currently held from each system.
Yeah, now worth pointing out that he's also locked them all at 100 milliwatts because he's trying to get an apples-to-apples comparison of the underlying tech. Yes. Obviously, Express LRS can go up to 2 watts. Tracer can go up to ludicrous power, which is somewhere around a watt. And Ghost can do 350 milliwatts. So this is not the absolute max performance of each one, but it does give you a perspective on the relative strength of their underlying technology.
Yeah, I will say most of the Ghost modules are like around 250 to 350 milliwatts, I think. But yeah, I think you can get it higher based on like the output processor like it's built on.
Well, the Ghost is max at 350, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm talking about Express LRS.
Oh,
yeah.
My bad. I think you said Ghost.
Oh, okay, my bad. Yeah,
the R9.
Express LRS, I think is most of the modules are like 250 or 350.
Can't you go to Dauntless FPV says 2 watts? Which one? I want one. Doesn't the R9 module go up to 2 watts but you have to put a fan on it to keep it from burning up? Am I wrong about that?
That may be the case, but I'm not 100% sure. I guess I could just check real quick.
Okay, well, it's not that big a deal. I may be wrong.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, so his theory is that right at around 5 kilometers out, there's a neighborhood. And his theory is that there's noise there that causes the LQ to drop. And he had the antennas on the Ghost module at 45 degrees, which is what Immersion RC recommends. But he found that if he put them parallel to each other, he actually got better LQ. And his theory is that the LQ dropped just enough to fail-safe due to the interference from the housing estate.
Yes.
But when he put the antennas in a different mode, he was able to push further. But then, as you pointed out, the question then is, he should have gotten, if he got 20-ish kilometers on 100 milliwatts, he should get approximately, say, 35 kilometers on 350 milliwatts. And he didn't. He got like 27. So, but it's all pretty good.
Yeah, just I did look it up. It looks like R9 will do that, but yeah, we were looking at the 2.4 gigahertz systems. So on the 2.4 gigahertz systems, I think max is 250 or 350, and then on the 900 megahertz, I think they'll go up to 1 watt on the R9.
Okay.
So.
All right, moving on. Thank you, Wezley Varty, for that, and looking forward to more range tests from him. That's pretty amazing. The next up, the WeBleed Whoop Series. We've been following the WeBleed Whoop Series, Blunty, because you and your team are competing in it, and you guys both won weeks 1 and week 2, and now we're going to have the big reveal of the results from week 3.
We won.
Oh, surprise. Well, congratulations.
Yes, we won again. It was actually a bit harder this time. We dropped one of the, what do you call it? The relay matches. We dropped a relay race, but we ended up coming out on top anyway. To shout out to Deceptive Science, who got second, and they were actually down their captain, I believe. So, yeah, it was good racing though. As always, it's been every week good racing. We're leading the board right now. Deceptive Science is in second, so hopefully, it'll still be good racing.
Yeah, competition will only heat up. Well, congratulations. We'll keep an eye on that, and people can I think they can watch the replays in Velocidrone, can't they, if they want to check you out?
Yeah, they can. In Velocidrone you could go to like Nemesis mode and look at our fastest laps and stuff.
Nice.
Or you can go and check out Perspective Image on YouTube or Facebook or Twitch, and they normally have replays of all the shows there and live streams of them when they happen.
Oh, Wezley, I didn't realize this. Wezley is in my Discord. I mean, I knew he's in the Discord server. He's in the Discord server right now. He had a comment real quick. He said Tracer may go further if it was a lower noise environment, but 2.4 gigahertz. Tracer's raw range is limited by noise in the 2.4 gigahertz band, which is always going to be there. So he says if you were to put it in an ultra clean environment, it might go further, but this is a real world test. Frankly, Wesley's tests seem like they're fairly clean. He's out in the rural Australia somewhere. I don't know how rural it is. It looks rural from the videos. He also says they limit R9 to 1 watt, not 2 watts. So, alrighty. Next up, everything old is new again, right, Blunty? Remember when Johnny FPV said soft mount your motors with electrical tape? It's the secret to juice. And everybody tested it out and was like, I made a video about it saying, well, there is a difference in the black box logs. And then people kept asking me, do you soft mount your motors? And I was like, no, I mean, it's such a pain in the ass and it's completely unnecessary. Here we go again.
Sort of. So we had an original post by Bob Rugi from FPV Cycle. And he said, I love how he says it. He says, this is almost embarrassing, but I'm going to test whether a layer of electrical tape between top arms and bottom of a carbon sandwich helps dampen vibration. So he asked people to reach out and look at some stuff. And there was a bunch of discussion and a bunch of people going back and forth, testing different things and seeing what worked. So we got a new post by Bob. And Bob came back and he said,
Number one,
I'm sorry. Yeah. 2, I'm really sorry.
Go ahead.
But we've had a breakthrough with tape. So basically, this is what many weeks of engineering prowess has boiled down to. I'm sorry, because it's just going to have to be a bit janky. So one layer of tape between the arms and the FC mounting plate on pretty much any frame really is close to magic. It's friction dampening. Basically, the part of the issue is that this only works with a certain thickness. It seems like one piece of electrical tape. If you did two, it seems to be worse. If the electrical tape gets damaged, it seems to be worse. But like this specific level of dampening with one piece of electrical tape seems to be an improvement based on basic levels. And it seems to be better because Bob is pushing to get us a lighter quad. And something we discussed before when we looked at the Chris Rosser videos was mainly that, when you're trying to get a lighter quad, you're going to add vibration and resonance because you can't gain the stiffness from adding carbon. So
right.
what do you do? You just deal with resonance. And we talked about how you push them farther up into the spectrum, to get your noise modes higher. So your gyro low pass cuts them out and stuff like that. So what this is doing instead is actually doing dampening and just pulling those resonance modes out into the tape, essentially.
So let's just stipulate that the black box logs show that this works in at least some cases. Bob's enthusiastic about it. He says all cases, all frames he's tested, maybe he's right. What's the downside? Isn't the tape going to wear out and get ruined and you're going to have to put new tape on? Is it? And there's so many frames that fly great without the tape. So are we chasing our tails here?
Well, so I don't know. It depends on who you ask, I think, at this point. I think for frames like this, like I said, I think for frames like this where you're fighting to get your frame as light as possible, it's possible that you could get even lighter by adding tape shims in. I think that's the idea. If you can find ways to cheat out this resonance, then it can be super positive.
But if you've got let's say you've got a 600 gram 5-inch quad, which is fairly light as they go, are you going to does it, maybe it matters on a 40 gram toothpick, but maybe it's not worth it on a 5-inch. I don't know.
Yeah, so it's possible. It's hard to know exactly, but the way to look at it is if this reduces the noise in your gyro, that means you should be able to lower the amount of filtering that you have on your quad, and that should provide a better response of your gyro information getting to the PID loop to do work on it. So that 100%. Means you'll get better prop wash performance as a baseline, and you'll get better performance overall of the quad. And the only thing you lose is all that gyro noise. So if you get free ways to take it out without processor filtering.
You say free, but you have to, I like the fact that I don't have this, let's say you use electrical tape. Well then, is it going to wear out? Is it going to get scuffed or crushed or torn? Is it going to make it more inconvenient for me to change arms? I mean, there's all these logistical questions. I don't think it's necessarily free.
Sure,
but
that's fair.
That's up to people like Bob, I guess, to figure out the answer to how to design a frame where this makes a lot of sense and it's easy to do.
Yeah, reading through the comments, he talked a little bit. Somebody was talking about the same question of is the tape going to wear out? And hopefully the amount of movement doesn't cause it to wear out very fast. As such, it won't matter for our time frames. But I mean, it just depends. I would say though, if it is wearing out, that probably means it's doing something.
Maybe so. Mouse FPV in the Discord is he ran a test, and here's two side-by-side black box logs. The left one is without tape, and you can clearly see two huge resonance spikes there. And the right one is with tape, and long story short, one of them spikes is gone. So you could kind of see it, but it's a pretty big freaking difference. And if that results in you being able to tune your filters a little more aggressively, you could get a better flying quad out of it. There's no question.
Yeah, very cool.
All right.
Somebody said you can use your red tape. Is that the problem?
I mean, anything that lets me put more red electrical tape on quads, I guess I'm a fan of. Info Mario Reus, thank you for €5 super chat. Oh man, Tanelli Kaivola wants a link to the Discord server. The Discord server is for patrons only, unfortunately, so you can find a link to that down in the video description. All right, let's continue.
Just real quick update. This is how fast this whole thing is moving. They've discovered some new flags in FFmpeg to get the latency down to around half of where it was before with the video out solution. So if you're interested, go check out the Discord.
Yeah, nice. Fast moving indeed.
Yes.
All right, Blunty. Let's do this next one. I want to get to the EdgeTX one, and we've run over our hour. Not that the audience cares, but we got this next story about this DJI drone update. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so unfortunately, it seems like DJI has pushed an update to the DJI FPV Fly app, and that updates the FlySafe database. And so what that has caused is stuff that connects to the FlySafe database to not take off. So it seems like the Air 2S and the DJI FPV drone are affected. This happened a few days ago, and I guess one of the guys was contacted this morning from support saying they are looking into this, but so far I have seen no resolution of this, and most of the people who have it just literally can't fly right now.
God forbid that you're using your Air 2 or your DJI FPV for a freaking commercial work. Right?
Yeah, it's
way to go,
quite
DJI.
unfortunate. Quite unfortunate.
And the same as with the activation bug, you're like, customers bought your product and can't use it. Why is this not like an absolute fire drill that you're fixing it? You just like, I don't know, I guess it just shit happens. Like, yeah. I don't see it. I don't understand.
I will say I expect to see this fixed much faster because it affects drone users versus
instead of FPV pilots.
Yes, exactly. All the other issues have been like activation is an issue if you don't have the drone. You know, the binding issue is an issue if you have both. So like to me, like this is a drone only issue. Hopefully this will get fixed.
Oh no. People who don't own the DJI drone are having a problem. Whatever will we do?
Yep.
Alrighty. Well, don't update your drone until they fix this, I guess is the takeaway. Yeah. Okay. Next one, real quick. If you have the SkyZone, Sky 04X, Sky 04L, Sky 02, all the Rapidmix steady view goggles, people have been struggling, as with all of these modules, Rapid Fire, Fusion, and now Steady View, in some sense, suffer from this problem, and some handle it better than others. But there have been problems with a horizontal rolling screen and different cameras causing sync lock problems. There's a new firmware update that some people say it makes it actually worse.
Yeah, I did see that as well. This
keep
is a
the
beta.
Old firmware.
This is a beta, so if you've got a bunch of problems with your camera, maybe update to this beta 2.0 and see if this fixes your issues with cameras. But otherwise, maybe wait for the official 2.0 release.
Yeah, that's a good rule of thumb. Don't rush. Hopefully, good to know that they're still working on it.
Yeah.
Okay, but most people out there may not. A lot of people probably don't own SkyZone goggles, and so they don't care. So we'll move right on to the final. And we could almost call this one a rant, Blunty. We'd like to close with rants. We could rant about how freaking long it's been since OpenTX 2.4 was coming soon. When's the first time you heard about OpenTX 2.4?
A long time, like last year early, I feel like.
Like, I remember hearing about the promise that when OpenTX 2.4 came out, the FlySky Nirvana would be fully supported. When did that? It was like 2 years ago. How long ago was that? Let's look. Cool. I'm going to look it up. I took my Nirvana videos down, actually. It was a long time ago. And there have been a lot of questions like about what's happening. Crossfire shot, supposed to be rolled in 2.4. Support for the Radio Master touchscreen, supposed to be rolled out in 2.4. There's this huge stack of features that people are waiting for that are coming in 2.4, and where's 2.4? Where is 2.4? Where has it been? We found out some stuff.
Yeah, apparently it's kind of been in stagnation. So it sounds like, I'll try to summarize here. Basically, I asked a month or two ago about, when 2.4 was coming, and basically was told there's no plan for a date. And then basically we got a message a few days ago from Raphael. So Raphael Kalefik, I believe, is his name. And he created Crossfire Shot, actually. He's the one who made Crossfire Shot with Trappy and CT Snooze. And he has now, he basically got with the devs of OpenTX and said, hey, what can we do to kick this thing together? I see you guys are behind here and stuff's running out. And he basically kind of got a cold shoulder a little bit. He was trying to work with them and try to get stuff pushed into OpenTX to get 2.4 rolled out. And he basically talked to the devs and got their good graces to instead make a fork. So we now have a new official fork of OpenTX that has the graces of the devs. And it turns out has the graces of some of the other developers from other companies.
Yeah.
So this is called EdgeTX, and he's actually been in contact with Trappy over at TBS and Pascal, I believe, from the multi-protocol module project, as well as some other guys in the background.
Presumably Radio Master.
Yeah, and
one of the stories I heard was that Radio Master was a driver here, because Radio Master sold the TX16S and they said OpenTX 2.4 will have touchscreen support. And now it's a long time later and customers are like, hey, where's that? And Radio Master's like, yeah, good question.
Yeah, so it seems like, there's already support for multi-protocol module and TBS. It sounds like there'll be support from many other companies. I think as you alluded to before, this seems like this will likely be similar to the Betaflight CleanFlight split that we saw a while back. OpenTX seems to be stagnating and doesn't really want to push to 2.4. And so instead, we're going to get a fork where we can get the future development, fast development that we want and get 2.4 hopefully released. So there actually is officially a tentative date for OpenTX or EdgeTX 2.4. EdgeTX 2.4 is planned for the 21st of June. So if you wanted a date to put on things, there it is.
And I think we could start to speculate a little bit about what's going on here, because I was there for the CleanFlight Betaflight split. That was as I had gotten into FPV, and my sort of read on the situation is that Dominic Clifton had a very sort of strict hold on the project. It's not that maybe the project was stagnating so much as he just didn't want to roll out a bunch of experimental features that could screw things up, and was a little more safety oriented. And the Betaflight guys were a little more let's just live fast and loose. And people sort of went that direction because they just felt like playing fast and loose. But in this case, there are some things that we know, for example, that one of the OpenTX devs, I think it's the guy, one of the people, if not the only person who's in charge, who can sort of controls the GitHub repo and can approve code changes, got hired by FreeSky some years back and was working on their new EthOS. And you can certainly see why potentially FreeSky might be I think you should be working on EthOS and not so much on OpenTX. And perhaps that's a reason why OpenTX has stagnated. Some people have even speculated that it's an intentional plan by FreeSky to try to kill OpenTX.
Yeah, so hopefully that won't be an issue anymore if that was the case. Now we have a looking forward plan for EdgeTX. Yeah. Currently, there's not really, there's a Discord for EdgeTX and stuff, but we haven't linked a lot of that stuff just because it's very early. There's you have to dig binaries out of a pull request right now. Mm-hmm. It's super early. This is just pretty soon here in the next few weeks, you'll start to see releases from EdgeTX. We'll cover them here when you can start flashing them to a radio, and a lot of the bugs are worked out and something stable's coming. So I look forward to the 21st of June, I would say. And we're putting this up because I think this is going to be the thing. This seems to be where everybody's moving.
I've noticed for a long time that OpenTX is stagnant, and we've got FreedomTX from TBS, the TBS Tango 2, not supported in OpenTX Companion. Well, it'll be supported in 2.4. Not that many people have the Nirvana, but they're waiting. Radio Master, all these people, even Crossfire Shot, which finally got rolled out in 2.3.12, it's been over a year and a half since Crossfire Shot first got implemented, and you haven't been able to get it in a main build of OpenTX. And there's all this logjam that hopefully will break, and then who knows what other cool new stuff we'll get. But I'm really glad that this happened, because it's just been too long.
Just a reminder to everybody, this is still, this is a fork of OpenTX. So this is open source. If people want to push pull requests back the other way and add stuff back to OpenTX and try to get 2.4 going or whatever's going to happen, this is, if that is the case, that's the case. Whatever's going to happen happens. But, it's I don't think we're condemning anything. But it seems like with a stagnant OpenTX and no 2.4 on the horizon, we now have an answer. Yeah,
EdgeTX. And it's not like this is some... It's not like it's when Kevin Plaisir came out of nowhere and said, I'm not really a programmer, but I figure I'm going to write EmuFlight and learn as I go. And I was like, And then actually, he built a linchpin, so I guess he showed me. But this Raphael is he's the guy who developed Crossfire Shot. So he's got the chops, and hopefully can get things moving. So exciting.
Yeah.
Great. Well, that's going to do it. That's going to do it for the news.
Good stuff.
That brings us to the end. Thank you guys for coming out. We got one more super chat from Michael Hill for $10. But that is going to do it for the news this week. Oh, and one more from Perspective Image. Thanks for the shout out. We live stream the WeBleed FPV Team Whoop series every Sunday. So awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you, Perspective Image, for that. Blunty, thank you, sir, for sticking with us for an extra 15 minutes. You know, I always appreciate that. Are we going to stream next week, Tuesday?
Yeah.
We are. I'll be back from Rampage, so we will be streaming next week.
Yeah, we're good to go.
I plan to be back. I heard that there's a freaking gas shortage in North and South Carolina. They're like declaring a state of emergency. And I was like, like a pipeline got hacked. And then there's like yesterday. And I'm like, oh, good thing I'm not driving to South Carolina next week. That won't be a problem. But hopefully I'll be back and we'll be able to stream on Tuesday. So that's going to do it. If you guys have anything you want to submit for the news, send it to news@fpvknowitall.com. Subscribe to this guy's channel, link down below. Anything else?
Yeah, don't forget to subscribe to this channel as well, under you, Joshua Bardwell's channel. And then don't forget to like this video so other people see this video. So
awesome. All right, guys.
Thanks for hanging out,
see you
everybody.
next week. Thanks for hanging out. Happy flying.